The possibility of weird, wacky, brilliant, and illuminating ideas. Curiosity, moodiness, caution and incaution, patience and impatience, passion, romance. These are all pressures and qualities that this cycle of the human design weather for December 14th to 19th, 2025 bring. Hello, hello, and welcome to the Human Design Weather or Not podcast with me, Margot Fraser. And the real weather here, boy, it's a little bit crazy. We've got Chinook winds moving in. It was minus 22 Celsius when I woke up this morning, and it's going to be plus 10 by the time we get to tomorrow. So, yeah, it's a little slushy out there. Also, for those of you that are space weather watchers, we have the Gemini meteor shower going on, peaking tonight and tomorrow night. So if you have a chance after dark to go out and take a look at that, should see lots of shooting stars. All right, well, let's get into the human design weather. This cycle begins on December 14th at 2:12 a.m., going until the 19th at 2:49 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Universal time coordinates, that's coming in December 14th at 9:12 a.m., going until December 20th at 4:49 a.m. So remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the Sun-Earth activations because that's 70% of the conditioning field. We have the sun moving into gate 11, the trait of ideas. It's also called peace. It's in the Ajna center, the seat of our mental awareness and mental processes like analyzing, rationalizing, comparing, and so on. Its keynote says a harmonic condition in the individual or society that permits assessment before renewed action. So ideas need to be considered and assessed. They bring different perspectives when we share them. This is part of the collective abstract circuitry that's all about making sense of the past, and in this trait, gaining ideas from the realizations that can eventually be shared. This is the place where belief systems are developed as the ideas become beliefs. Remember that this isn't logic. It's not based in fact, but people can be incredibly fervent about their beliefs. We've all seen and heard that. The thing about your ideas is that they're mostly not for you to do anything about other than to share them. They're to be expressed when correct for you and may stimulate others to action. You could really make yourself miserable and feel incapable if you're trying to fulfill on all the ideas that your mind has. This cycle, you could get some really good ideas that are inspiring to others, perhaps even shifting someone into action. You may hear some stimulating ideas from others that may shift you into action, according to your own strategy and authority, of course. This is also a trait that can help educate the uneducated. Line 4 is called the teacher. It's a trait that can bring the ability to really paint a picture for someone so that they can understand something that they may never have experienced themselves. The assessment piece in the keynote is also about determining if the idea is of value or not. Is the idea really something that contributes to the collective, or is it completely impractical? You could hear people blurting out ideas that are not fully formed and totally impractical this cycle, but they might really be trying to convince you to believe in them. Or perhaps you'll be the one trying to do the convincing. As part of the overall collective circuitry, there can be the pressure to share your ideas before they're fully formed, before they're fully crystallized. And that's just going to create confusion for others if you try to express them. So it can lead to confusion instead of clarity. And confusion is the starting point for the mental abstract awareness process. You may also experience anxiety that you can't come up with a good idea or that there are no good ideas out there in the world. Since ideas do come and go, you may want to have a pen and paper or voice recorder handy to capture any ideas that do come in for you. Gate 11 is being grounded in the Earth's position. Gate 12, the trait of caution or standstill in the throat center. This is part of the individual circuitry that can bring mutation through a pulse of knowing. In this case, of something mutative that may shift the way in which we relate to one another. Its keynote says the quality of restraint and the importance of meditation and inaction in confronting temptation. The temptation here is to express your feelings and your moods. This trait points to gate 22 in the emotional center. So ultimately, it's here to express feelings, and it does carry a moodiness as an individual trait. As a mutative trait that could bring something new, it has a built-in mechanic to be restrained until you're in the mood, which is why it also has the name standstill. And patience is really needed because to be mutative, you have to express to the right people at the right time by following your strategy and authority. This trait brings individual expressions of feeling, knowing, moods, passions. It can be romantic, it can be brooding, it can be volatile, beautiful, ecstatic. Those are all within that moodiness and those feelings. This trait could also bring a dropping into melancholy, that there's no one to listen to what you have to say. It brings the possibility to be very articulate. It's part of the only social channel in the individual circuitry. It's also one of the three gates of aloneness, where you wait until the proper mood for the moment to release the awareness of your emotional spirit and then withdraw again. Remember that the individual mutative energy, it's here to bring a spark. It's not up to the individual circuitry in these traits and gates to turn that into a fire within the collective or the tribe. This is the voice of I try or not. I know I can try if I'm in the mood. I know I can be social. I'm just not in the mood for it right now. I know I can be alone. I'm just not in the mood to be alone right now. I know I can be social, and I'm in the mood to be social right now. So all those variations are encapsulated within it. Now, if the patience and restraint aren't there, the polarity can play out, and it's the voice of incaution. And in that incaution, it can be volatile, provoking, angry, and agitating. It could come out as being very aggressive with what you or those around you are not in the mood for. I'm in no mood for your shenanigans. This trait can also be overly cautious and never speaking out the mutative knowing that's there, which is really a shame because that spark that could shift the way that we relate to one another never gets articulated. When we look at the Sun Earth positions together, we may see mutative ideas that shift relationships for better or worse. Those may be expressed. There could be an articulate expression that may open one's mind to new ideas, or an inarticulate expression or not expressing one's knowing when it's correct in a way that could close minds or fail to shift the prevailing belief system. The passions or dispassions shared could lead to new ideas, and the mood you're in could impact whether you're open or closed to ideas. All right, let's move on to our channels now. Just a reminder that when the transit field creates a channel, everyone in the world that doesn't have it in their chart is receiving activation of the related traits and qualities. So it has a big impact that way. We have our short-term channel that actually came in last cycle and will be with us until December 16th at 1:29 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's 8:29 a.m. UTC. Mars moved into gate 10, the trait of behavior of the self, self-love, and self-hate in the G center. That's our center that's associated with love, identity, and direction in life. And it's connecting with its electromagnetic, or one of its electromagnetics, gate 34, the trait of power in the sacral center that's being activated by Mercury. Together, they create the channel of exploration, a design of following one's convictions. This is an individual channel. So it's not about your family's convictions, society's convictions, anyone else's convictions. It's about your convictions. What do you stand for? And your correct behavior allows you to follow your convictions. We can reverse that as well. When you're following your convictions, the behavior you express will be correct. This is part of the centering circuit, along with gates 25, which we do have in the transit field, and gate 51 in the ego center. Following your convictions is the energy and the ability to be centered in yourself. This is the vital energy of the sacral, the energy of life, connecting with the gate of self love. So, truly loving yourself is loving your life. This channel brings the possibility to empower self love and end your love of life, or the polarity. It could empower self hate and hate of your life. Mercury and its theme of communication could have people talking about their convictions or lack thereof. And active and hasty Mars could have people trying to impose their convictions on others rather than just living their convictions. You may feel the pressure of that within you as well, or see it play out around you. Now, I should add too that a mature Mars can be very wise and could amplify the ability to stand by your convictions and really live them. That in turn can empower others to do the same. We have 3 channels being created by transits of the moon this cycle. So they're just little tasters. That's because the moon only activates a gate or a trait for about 10 or 11 hours, give or take. So first up, coming in December 15th at 12:18 p.m., going until 11:42 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. UTC, that's coming in December 15th at 7:18 p.m., going until the 16th at 6:42 a.m. We have the moon moving into gate 44, the trait of alertness in the splenic center, our most primitive awareness center that operates in a pulse of knowing in the now. It's connecting with Venus position, gate 26 in the ego center. That's the gate of the egoist, creating together the channel of surrender, a design of a transmitter. This is part of the tribal circuitry. So it's going to carry that overall theme of mutual support. Remember, the tribe means the groups, the communities, family, business that you belong to. This is part of the entrepreneurial side of the tribe that can bring in the needed resources, and that's typically through business. It brings the possibility to transmit any needed change as part of the continuous improvement process in a way that people will leave the old and adopt the new. This is called the channel of surrender because it's the ego that needs to be surrendered in this process. One thing about the tribe is you can do the transmitting, they can buy into it, but the tribe usually doesn't praise those that transmit the needed change, even though it does appreciate what's being done. Ultimately, this channel's purpose is to help create wealth for the tribe. Next up, we have coming in December 15th at 11:42 p.m., going until the 16th at 11:07 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. UTC, that's coming in December 16th at 6:42 a.m., going until 6:07 p.m. We have the moon moving into gate 1, the trait of the creative in the G center. It's connecting with its electromagnetic gate 8, the trait of contribution in the throat center. Together, they create the channel of inspiration, the design of a creative role model. This is a channel that operates in a pulse of creative inspiration, and you have no control over when or if that pulse is going to come through. This is truly something new and mutative. It's not the continuous improvement that we just talked about in the tribal channel of the transmitter, and it's not the refinement that you see in the collective circuitry, collective logic with its experimenting and refining and refining, trying to perfect. So it's something truly new that could be mutative. It's rooted in the knowing that true creative inspiration is independent of will. You can't force that pulse to come through. It brings the opportunity to share and contribute your uniqueness, your unique expression out into the world. Now, there can be a fear of rejection here, a rejection of your individual contribution, a rejection of your very uniqueness. I mean, this is a gate of the self that's coming out through the expression. There can also be a blurting out of one's creative expression when it hasn't been invited, and it's not likely to have the desired impact in that case. Lastly, we have the moon moving into gate 34. So we saw that Mercury was in gate 34 for our short-term transit. It moves out, and then the moon's moving back into that transit at 9:54 a.m. on December 17th, going until 9:16 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. UTC, that's coming in December 17th at 4:54 p.m., going until the 18th at 4:16 a.m. So that's going to connect again with gate 10, Mercury's position, the trait of the behavior of the self, self-love, and self-hate. So once again, we're going to have the channel of exploration coming back for just a little teaser here, that design of following one's conviction. So we already talked about that, and let's move on then to our long-term transits. The long-term transits are created by the outer planets and the nodes of the moon. They're with us for longer periods of time, years in some cases. So your not self mind could start to think that they're part of you when you really don't have it in your own design. And then it can be a little confusing for the mind when that transit finally moves on. All right, let's start with the nodes of the moon, which are in the gates of doubt and confusion in the head center, bringing the pressure to think logically and abstractly, respectively. The nodes are about what we see in the world and what's in our environment, and it's generally going to bring an environment of people sharing with each other, sharing their doubts and confusion. These are collective gates. Doubt comes from seeing patterns and formula that don't seem to be working anymore. And confusion comes when you haven't put all the puzzle pieces together out of an experience that you've been through. How does it fit into the movie of your life? That can bring good questions that inspires the rest of the mental logic and abstract circuitry. Ultimately, these gates can bring the potential to raise consciousness or not. This can bring a very intellectually stimulating environment and a very intellectually competitive environment. We have these traits in line 2, which has an underlying theme of projection and represents both the hermit and the natural. Now, line 2s can be antisocial. So there's going to be this background antisocial nature within the environment. Because line 2 projects out, we're going to see that people seem to doubt each other and are confused whether they really are or not. And that could have us asking each other, what's the matter? If there really is doubt or confusion there, that could call it out. And those doubts and confusion can respectively inspire potential answers and inspire that making sense process and getting those realizations, those ahas. Alternatively, people could get lost in their doubts and confusion. Overall, this environment of confusion and doubt could really have people getting caught up in their minds. It could bring some really great inspiration for you mentally, or you could get drawn into trying to answer someone else's questions or helping them make sense when it's not how you should be using your energy. So just watch for that. On December 18th, the day before this cycle ends, the nodes will move into line 1. And so I'll talk about that in the next cycle, but it generally shifts us into more of a mentally introspective and investigating environment. While the nodes are in these gates, keep reminding yourself that the mind is not for making decisions in your life. You've got your strategy and authority for that. When we look at the outer planets, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are all staying in the same gates and lines as we left them in the last cycle. We had Saturn go direct in November, and now it's finally going to be moving out of that line 3 back into line 4 on December 15th, where we had it in October. Saturn's in the gate of crisis with the pressure to enter into a new experience. It's in line 4 called espionage. That's going to bring a quality of Being very perceptive about the nature of others, sometimes maybe forgetting to find out who you are, what your nature is, and using knowledge that you do have as that kind of bargaining chip in gaining the new experience. Just a brief review of the other long-term planets. Jupiter sitting in that gate 62, the trait of detail in the throat center with its voice of I think or I don't think, which is part of the mental logic circuitry. It's in line 3 called discovery. This is the line of trial and error and brings the possibility of discovering valuable information in detail work and to find innovative applications for this knowledge. If, however, the ego gets in the way and you become offended when others point out mistakes in your theories and in your opinions, rather than just accept them and go back to the drawing board, go back into the discovery, the possible innovation and valuable knowledge will be lost. Access to Jupiter's expansiveness and good fortune can come through the discoveries that you make in this process. Saturn, we talked about in the gate of crisis, that's in the emotional center. So let's move to Uranus now. It's sitting in gate 8, the individual trait of contribution. And it's in line 5 called Dharma. This is a throat center gate. This is the line of the teacher. So this is interesting, right? Because when we get to line 4 in our sun's position, gate 11, it's called the teacher. And here, line 5 in this gate, gate 8, is also represents the teacher. So that window of time when we've got the sun also in line 4, very strong energy of teaching. All right. So the teacher here is where you contribute your individual wisdom. This is individual in this case, not collective, and then let others go do what they want with it. Or in the detriment is where you don't want to let go of those you contribute to so that you can try and control how they use your contribution, like the parent who can't let go of their child to let them spread their own wings. Neptune sitting in gate 25, the trait of the spirit of the self, innocence, and universal love. That's in the G center. It's in line 2 called the existentialist, which brings the pressure to be here now, rather than worrying about what will be or what was. If the ego gets involved, though, there can be a wanting to be recognized for one's selfless actions, which is no longer selfless. And we have Pluto sitting in gate 41 in the root center, the trait of decrease and contraction. It's in line 1 called reasonableness. Now, this is the pressure to begin a new experience, but a new experience starts with fantasizing. What are all the things that you want to have experiences in? And then being reasonable and narrowing those down to the one that you really want to experience next. There can also be unreasonableness here where you're not able to whittle it down to that one that you really want to enter into, which ends up diluting experiences because one of the rules of thumb for the experiential circuitry is one experience at a time. Okay, overall, we have an environment of confusion and doubt that could bring good questions or that people could get lost in. Within that, if we look at more the exaltations, for most of the cycle, there'll be pressure to stay present and follow your convictions. And when you're in the mood, using your knowledge to open doors to new experiences that can be reasonably attained, sharing your unique expression and letting others do what they want with it. From all of this, new ideas may emerge, or you may hear interesting new ideas. If we look at more the detriment side, there can be a difficult moodiness, more of an agitation with an egoic need to impress others with facts and wanting recognition for so-called selfless actions in a way that abandons one's convictions. And there can be this coercing of others to get ahead using secret knowledge, being unreasonable in expectation and stuck in fears of inadequacy, rejection, and anxiety that there are no new ideas that have any value. Okay, so just a few ways the keynotes can be put together there. Remember that for any of these traits, if you don't have them in your own design, it's just pressure from the transit field. You can observe it playing out around you, you can learn from it, but whether there's anything for you to actually do with it is according to your own strategy and authority. So don't let it run you. That brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. If you're new to human design and you just want to understand the basics of the body graph, what's the black and the red about, the different geometric shapes and so on, feel free to grab my free Human Design Basics mini course. It's at margotgfraser.com/human design. All right. If you enjoy these podcasts, it's always helpful for me if you can give it a like and consider subscribing if it's correct for you. All right. Now, you may connect with your true convictions in a greater way that can help you to be centered in yourself while we have this channel of exploration present. You might sense an inner cautiousness to share. Be patient and wait for the right timing. At the same time, you might find it easier to express your passions or dispassions. You may have or hear some interesting ideas, so stay open to that. Remember that your own ideas are likely not for you to do anything about. That mental, abstract process. All the mental processes end at the throat, and there's no motor for action. So there's no need to burden yourself or berate yourself that you're not taking action on all your ideas and getting down in yourself that way. Right? They're to be expressed and others will take them. At the same time, you might be motivated into action in response to someone else's idea if it's correct for you. Okay, well, have a great cycle and may you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.